You see, worship is active on the inside of the church and on the outside of the church. God deserves your worship. God deserves my worship. Also, I desperately need worship because every time I worship, it puts my priorities back in the right order. I realize that God is God and I'm not. I try that. It doesn't always work out real well. Worship is a lifestyle. Romans 12:1 says, "Therefore I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as living sacrifices, holy and pleasing to God. This is your spiritual act of worship." That text is saying wherever we are, whoever we're with, whatever we're doing, anytime, any place, worship should be going on. I wonder if that's true in our own life. I mean, we could come to church like hundreds of people did last weekend. We can shed tears, we can lift our hands, we can kneel, we can sing to God. But if worship does not involve life change, if worship doesn't transcend into our marriage and dating relationships, if worship doesn't translate into how we're parenting our kids, if worship doesn't influence our priorities and our thoughts and our activities and our vocabulary and the places we go, then it really isn't true worship. It is a compartmentalized thing that we do on Saturday night or Sunday morning. You see, true worship allows us to live into the words that Jesus said when he said, "If you love me, you will keep my commandments." You see, keeping the commandments brings about life change. Now, Christianity isn't some legalistic trip. Christianity gives us guidelines to follow that allows us to worship God with our whole self. Worship allows us to live a holy and pleasing and sacrifice-driven life before God. That is our spiritual act of worship. Worship, in general, is an intense passion or esteem for a person, place, or thing. Worship, in reality, is an intense passion for Jesus. We can't approach worship casually, but with a heartfelt response to the greatness and majesty of God, just like the elders in the passage. That leads us to getting rid of those things in our life that compete with our true worship, that cause us to waste our worship. I want to invite you to pray a high-risk prayer with me this morning. The prayer is simple. It simply says, "God, I want to serve and worship you and you alone." Let's say that together. God, I want to serve and worship you and you alone. One more time. God, I want to serve and worship you and you alone. You see, when we pray that prayer and live it out, our lives can then worship on earth just like they worshiped in heaven.